I never thought I would be writing this post. My wife Emma, 27F, and I, 28M, have been married for 5 years, together for 8. She was the best thing that ever happened to me. We met during our junior year of college at a mutual friend's Halloween party. Emma was dressed as Wonder Woman, and I was immediately captivated by her smile and confidence. We started dating a few weeks later and everything just clicked. Our relationship progressed naturally. We moved in together after graduation, got engaged 2 years later, and had a beautiful beach wedding surrounded by family and friends. Everyone always commented on how perfect we were together. We rarely fought, supported each other's careers, and had similar goals in life. Emma is a marketing director at a tech company, and I work in finance. Last year, we bought our dream house in the suburbs and were planning to start trying for a baby this summer. My older brother Jake and I were always close growing up. He was the popular, outgoing one while I was more reserved. Jake never settled down. He traveled a lot, dated casually, and lived life on his own terms. 3 years ago, everything changed when he got into a terrible car accident. A drunk driver hit him head on, and Jake was left paralyzed from the waist down. The doctors said he would never walk again. The accident devastated our family. Jake had to move back in with our parents and needed constant care. He fell into a deep depression, refused therapy, and pushed away most of his friends. I visited as often as I could, but it was hard seeing my once vibrant brother so broken. Emma was incredibly supportive during this time. She would visit Jake frequently, sometimes even without me when I was busy with work. She would bring him home-cooked meals, keep him company, and try to lift his spirits. I was so grateful that my wife cared so much about my family. Last month, I had to go on a 2-week business trip to Europe. It was the longest we'd been apart since getting married. Emma said she would keep checking on Jake while I was away since my parents were also traveling to visit my sister in California. Jake would be mostly alone except for his part-time caregiver who came in the mornings. I felt better knowing Emma would look after him. During my trip, everything seemed normal. Emma and I video called every night. She told me about her work, how Jake was doing, and how much she missed me. Sometimes she seemed distracted or would cut our calls short, but I figured she was just tired from managing everything alone. I even sent her flowers halfway through my trip to thank her for being so supportive. When I returned home, something felt off. Emma was distant and jumpy. She barely hugged me at the airport and made excuses not to be intimate. At first, I thought she was just exhausted from the past 2 weeks. But then I noticed other changes. She was being very protective of her phone, would leave the room to take calls, and started working late more often. She also stopped mentioning her visits to Jake. Yesterday, my laptop was running a system update, so I borrowed Emma's iPad to check some urgent work emails. A message notification popped up from Jake saying I miss you so much. Last week was amazing. Can't stop thinking about how you felt. My hands started shaking as I opened their message history. There were hundreds of intimate messages going back several months. They talked about sneaking around behind my back, how guilty they felt but couldn't stop, and explicit details about their physical relationship. During my Europe trip, Emma spent almost every night at my parents' house with Jake. There were messages about how they had to be quiet because of Jake's caregiver, and how Emma would have to shower and change clothes before coming home or video calling me. I sat there for hours reading everything, feeling more sick with each message. They had inside jokes about fooling me. Jake would complain about feeling bad for betraying me, and Emma would comfort him saying they couldn't help who they fell in love with. The worst part was finding messages where they discussed their future together, how they could eventually tell me the truth and be together openly. I waited for Emma to get home from work. As soon as she walked in, I held up the iPad and asked how long it had been going on. She froze, then burst into tears. Through her sobs, she admitted everything. She said their friendship had turned into an emotional affair over the past year. She would confide in him about problems in our marriage, problems I didn't even know existed. She claimed she felt neglected because I worked too much, and Jake made her feel needed and appreciated. Emma said things only got physical while I was in Europe. She swore it was a huge mistake and that she loved me, not Jake. She kept saying she was confused and lonely, and Jake was vulnerable and needed her. She begged me to forgive her, promised to cut all contact with Jake, and suggested marriage counseling. I couldn't even look at her. Not only had my wife cheated on me, but she did it with my paralyzed brother who had been supporting through the toughest time of his life. I packed a bag and went to stay at my friend Mike's place. Emma has been calling and texting nonstop, alternating between apologizing and blaming me for neglecting her. My parents found out this morning when they got back from California. My mom keeps calling, crying about how this will destroy the family. She actually asked me to consider forgiveness since Jake has already lost so much in life and can't help falling in love. That made me even more angry. Apparently being paralyzed gives him the right to steal his brother's wife? I've blocked both Emma and Jake's numbers. I contacted a divorce lawyer this morning who advised me to move back into the house since I inherited it from my grandparents. Part of me still loves Emma, but I know I can never trust her again. Every time I close my eyes, I see those messages and imagine them together in my parents' house, laughing at how stupid I was. My sister is flying in tomorrow to support me. She never liked Emma much and always said something seemed off about her relationship with Jake. I guess sometimes you're too close to see what's right in front of you. I don't know how I'll ever trust anyone again after this. My wife and brother, the two people I trusted most in the world, betrayed me in the worst possible way. Update 1 First, I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. Your support helped me stay strong through the hardest 2 weeks of my life. A lot has happened since then, and I need to get it all off my chest. After meeting with my lawyer, I learned that the house is legally protected since it was inherited before marriage and Emma's name isn't on the deed. My lawyer advised me to move back in immediately to avoid abandonment claims. I returned home last weekend and asked Emma to leave. She tried to argue but eventually packed some bags and went to stay with her sister Sarah. The first night back in our house was surreal. Emma had clearly been stress cleaning, everything was spotless and reorganized. I found a bunch of handwritten apology letters on our bed, which I threw away without reading. The worst part was finding Jake's favorite snacks in our pantry and one of his hoodies in our laundry room. I packed up everything that reminded me of either of them and put it in the garage. I told my parents I won't be attending any family events where Jake is present. This caused a huge fight with my mom. She kept saying I was being cruel and tearing the family apart. She actually suggested we all sit down together and work through this like adults. I reminded her that I'm not the one who destroyed the family. Her precious son did that when he slept with his brother's wife. Dad was quieter but still tried to push for reconciliation. I stood my ground and said they need to choose. They can either respect my boundaries or lose another son. Last week, Emma's sister Sarah asked to meet me for coffee. I almost declined, but she said she had important information I needed to know. When we met, she looked nervous and guilty. She revealed something that made this whole nightmare even worse. The affair didn't start recently like Emma claimed. According to Sarah, Emma had confessed that she and Jake first got physical shortly after his accident, when she was helping with his physical therapy. Sarah showed me text messages from over 2 years ago where Emma talked about developing feelings for Jake. In one message, Emma wrote about how vulnerable and attractive Jake looked during therapy sessions, and how guilty she felt for having these thoughts. Sarah also showed me conversations where Emma discussed kissing Jake and how it just happened during an emotional moment. I asked Sarah why she didn't tell me sooner. She said she thought it was just a temporary crush that Emma would get over, and she didn't want to ruin our marriage. She feels horrible now and wanted me to know the full truth. Then she dropped another bombshell. Emma and Jake had dated briefly in college, before Emma met me. They kept this hidden from everyone except Sarah. Armed with this new information, I drove to my parents' house to confront Jake. He was alone in his room, watching TV like nothing was wrong. When I walked in, he started with a rehearsed apology about being depressed and vulnerable after his accident. I cut him off and told him I knew about their college relationship and the 2-year affair. Jake's face changed completely. He tried to play the victim card, saying how hard it was watching me build a perfect life with a woman he never got over. He said Emma was the only one who truly understood his pain after the accident. I lost it at that point. I told him that being paralyzed doesn't give him the right to steal his brother's wife, and that he's using his disability to manipulate everyone's sympathy. The argument got heated. I said some things I probably shouldn't have, like how he was pathetic for going after his brother's leftovers and using his condition to get pity sex. Jake tried to will his chair at me aggressively, and I instinctively pushed it back. Our parents heard the commotion and had to intervene. Mom was hysterical, and Dad had to physically stand between us. Yesterday, Emma showed up unannounced at my office. She was a mess, crying, makeup streaked, wearing my favorite dress on her. My coworkers awkwardly pretended not to notice as she begged to talk. In the conference room, she admitted that her relationship with Jake went deeper than she initially claimed but swore the consistent physical affair only started recently. She said they tried to fight their feelings for years but couldn't help falling in love. I told her to leave before I made a scene at work. She kept trying to explain, saying they never meant to hurt me, that it just happened. I cut her off and said any further communication needs to go through our lawyers. As she was leaving, she turned back and said she'd always loved me but Jake needed her more. That was the moment I knew I'd made the right decision about divorce. The hardest part of all this is seeing how it's affecting our extended family. Everyone's being forced to take sides. Most of my cousins and aunts are firmly on my side and have cut contact with both Emma and Jake. But my mom's side of the family thinks I'm being too harsh and should give Emma another chance for the sake of the family. They keep bringing up Jake's disability like it's some kind of free pass for betrayal. My sister flew in from California to support me and is absolutely livid. She had a huge fight with our parents about their enabling behavior. She's letting me stay with her for a while once her work trip is done. At least some family members have their priorities straight. For now, I'm focusing on the divorce proceedings and trying to keep myself busy with work and gym. Emma's belongings are still here, but I'm having them packed by a service and put in storage. I still can't believe the two people I trusted most could betray me like this, but at least now I know the full truth. No more lies, no more manipulation, no more fake sympathy. Sometimes losing family is better than keeping toxic people in your life. Update 2. Just when I thought I had heard the worst of it, More truth came out that completely shattered what little peace I had managed to find. Emma's sister Sarah contacted me again last week. Their parents were selling their childhood home, and Sarah was helping clean out old stuff. While clearing Emma's old bedroom, she found a box of diaries hidden in the back of the closet. What Sarah discovered in those diaries made all of Emma's previous confessions look like small lies. The entries went back to our college days, and they revealed that Emma and Jake never really ended their relationship when she started dating me. The whole foundation of our relationship was built on lies. According to the entries, Emma and Jake had been in an intense relationship during their sophomore year of college. When Jake graduated and left for his traveling jobs, they agreed to take a break but never officially ended things. They would meet up whenever he was in town. This continued even after she started dating me in junior year. The diary entries were detailed and disturbing. Emma wrote about sneaking around with Jake during holidays when we all got together as a family. She described feeling excited by the thrill of having both brothers. There were entries about her confusion between choosing the wild, passionate Jake versus the stable, reliable me. She even wrote about how Jake would tease her about settling for his boring little brother. Reading Sarah's summary of these entries made me physically sick. I was never the one Emma truly wanted. I was just the safe backup plan while she continued her affair with my brother. Even our engagement didn't stop them. There were entries about Emma meeting Jake 2 weeks before our wedding, questioning if she was making the right choice. When Jake had his accident, Emma wrote about how it felt like fate bringing them back together. She detailed how their physical affair restarted during those therapy sessions, describing it as forbidden but inevitable. She manipulated both of us, playing the caring wife to me while secretly fulfilling her desires with Jake. I shared all this information with my parents, including photos of some diary entries Sarah sent. My dad finally stopped defending Jake. He broke down and admitted that he had suspicions about Jake and Emma's closeness even before the accident. Apparently, he once caught them in an intimate moment at a family barbecue but convinced himself he was imagining things. He apologized for pressuring me to forgive them and for not being honest about his suspicions years ago. My mom is still struggling to accept reality. She keeps making excuses, saying Emma must have exaggerated in her diary for dramatic effect. She suggested that maybe Jake manipulated Emma because of his fragile emotional state after the accident. I'm done listening to her attempts to paint Jake as the victim. The divorce proceedings have gotten ugly. When I submitted the diary entries as evidence of her long-term infidelity, Emma's lawyer came back aggressively. She's now claiming partial ownership of the house since she contributed to the mortgage payments and renovations. My lawyer shut that down quickly given the inheritance status, but now she's demanding alimony despite earning more than me at her job. Emma tried to reach out through mutual friends, claiming the diary entries were just fantasies and not reality. But her stories keep changing. First, it was just a recent mistake. Then it was a 2-year affair. Now faced with evidence of a decade-long deception, she's calling her own written words lies. Her true colors are really showing. Jake moved out of our parents' house after Dad confronted him with the diary evidence. He's staying with our cousin in Arizona now. Good riddance. He sent me a long email trying to explain himself, saying he always loved Emma but stepped aside because he thought I would be better for her. He actually tried to paint himself as noble for letting me marry her. I didn't bother responding. Some relatives suggested family counseling to heal these rifts. They keep talking about forgiveness and moving forward. But I'm done trying to fix things. I've lost all respect for both Emma and Jake. They didn't just have an affair, they played me for a fool for our entire relationship. Some betrayals cut too deep to heal. The only good thing to come out of this mess is knowing who I can truly trust. My sister, Sarah, and a few close friends have been incredibly supportive. The others who keep pushing me to reconcile with Jake because he's family are slowly being cut out of my life. I've learned that loyalty isn't about blood, it's about respect and honesty. Update 3: It's been half a year since my world fell apart. The divorce was finalized last month after a lot of drama and legal battles. Emma tried to drag it out by making unreasonable demands and playing victim. She wanted half of everything, including my inheritance property and even my retirement accounts. Her tune changed quickly when my lawyer threatened to expose her decade-long affair in court documents, which would have impacted her corporate image. She finally settled for a clean split. Emma and Jake moved in together in their new apartment in Arizona. They didn't even wait a month after the divorce to go public with their relationship on social media. Emma posted some long paragraph about finding true love through hardship and how sometimes life's greatest challenges lead to unexpected joy. The comments were full of support from people who don't know the full story. Some mutual friends even congratulated them. I blocked everyone who liked or commented on that post. My parents finally stopped trying to mediate after I gave them an ultimatum. I told them they could either respect my decision to cut Jake out of my life, or they would lose me too. Dad has been visiting me regularly now, completely avoiding any mention of Jake or Emma. He helped me sell the house and find a new condo closer to work. Mom still struggles with the situation but has stopped defending them. She sends care packages and tries to make up for enabling Jake's behavior all these years. The hardest part was dividing up friend groups. Most of our mutual friends felt pressured to choose sides. Some stopped talking to all of us to avoid drama. A few close friends stuck by me, especially after learning about the diary entries and the decade of deception. Emma's best friend actually reached out to apologize, saying she had no idea about the affair during college and felt horrible for supporting their relationship. I heard through family gossip that Emma and Jake are planning a spring wedding next year, as soon as the divorce waiting period ends. They're apparently trying to start a family through IVF. The news stung at first, but not as much as it used to. I've realized that they truly deserve each other, two people capable of maintaining lies and betraying their closest family members for years. I've started dating casually, but I'm taking things extremely slow. The trust issues are still there. I'm upfront with anyone I date about my past and why I'm cautious. Most women are understanding, and it helps filter out those who aren't ready for something serious. My sister's friend set me up with her coworker last month. We've been on a few dates and she seems genuinely nice, but I'm not rushing into anything. Work has been my main focus. I got promoted to senior manager and threw myself into the new role. Started taking evening classes for an advanced certification. The gym has become my second home, lost 20 pounds and got in the best shape of my life. My therapist says I'm handling things in a healthy way by focusing on self-improvement rather than revenge. To those who advised me to forgive and reconcile for the sake of family, thank you, but I'm glad I didn't listen. Walking away was the right choice. Sometimes the only way to heal is to cut out the cancer completely, even if it means losing people you once considered vital parts of your life. I've lost a wife and a brother, but I've gained self-respect and peace of mind. Life isn't perfect, but it's honest now. No more lies, no more manipulation, no more fake family harmony at my expense. The story of my marriage will always be a scar, but scars remind us of what we've survived. I'm ready to start my next chapter.